when you are looking for a job, you are looking for, first of all, a salary and for accessibility. You need to have a salary or else you wouldn't take the job. And you need to have accessibility. You need to be able to arrive at a job. You're not living in Amsterdam and looking for a job in Paris. So you should take the airplane every day to go from Amsterdam to Paris. You won't do that. You will also not take a job that will not meet your requirements to have a living. You have rent to pay. You have expenses. So the job must be in line with your daily necessities. It's because of a daily necessity that you need the job to begin with. A recruiter who recruits you for a job, he doesn't look at you the same way you do. A recruiter looks at you as an asset for the employer. So you look at that job as an answer to your necessity. What you don't realize is that you are the necessity for the employer. Because the employer can't do all the work himself. So he needs others to do the work for him. But the employer will never tell you this. Why? Just think about it. If you are a necessity, you have the leverage. But if someone wants to use you to make things easy for them, they're not going to tell you that you have the leverage. Because once you have the leverage, you will take advantage of your leverage. And the employer doesn't want this. The employer wants you to think that they have the leverage. And from your point of view, it's them have the leverage because they have the money you need for your expenses. So, the employer does have the leverage, but the employer wants you to think that you have none. Or that you have less leverage. Why? Because someone that doesn't see themselves as a potential being will likely agree with anything and everyone that will offer them some relief from their daily necessities. It's a common fact, and even children can understand this. If you're hungry and someone else has food, the fact that you're hungry means you have a necessity. The one who has food has a provision. Because you have this necessity, you need food, the one with the provision has a leverage. But if you have nothing to offer to the one with the leverage, then you are in a disadvantage. But if you have money, now you have something to offer. And now you're more likely to get the food. So the one with a necessity automatically perceives himself as someone with an inferior position. Someone with a provision is automatically seen as someone with the upper hand. But this is a scam. Because they only have the upper hand because you have a necessity. If you didn't have that necessity, their leverage wouldn't even exist. So, what I'm talking about here is a spiritual understanding that all believers should have. In this world, you are not allowed to see yourself as a potential being. You are expected to feed off of the psychic benefits the world throws at you. So, again, let's go back to the example of the recruiter. The recruiter needs you to agree with a contract. Let me say like this. Let's say you have a recruiter. He's recruiting people for a job. He can interview 20 candidates. And from those 20 candidates, there are 10 people that fit the job. They have the degrees, they have the experience, they have the knowledge, so they fit the job. And there are 20 who don't fit the job at all. But when he decides who is he going to ask to come for an interview, he will choose from those 10 who don't have any degrees nor an experience. And you may think, if you have 20 people, half of them are not qualified, the other half is, then you go for the ones that are qualified, right? That would be the obvious thing to do, according to the workers' mentality, according to the mentality of commoners out there. Which this one thing you need to understand, recruiters, they think differently. If you are qualified for a job, that means you have a leverage. That means you are needed. And once you acknowledge your value, you will demand others to value your value. But if you're not qualified, what's going to happen? The only reason you're there is because of the necessity of being paid, the necessity to be able to finance your expenses. This causes a psychological attachment to the job and the employer. Because without that job, something bad will happen. Namely, you lose your house because you can't pay rent, or you get homeless, and there will be social consequences. People will not deal with you once you become homeless, or people will not want to be around you if you can't go to parties with them. So there are psychological costs if you don't have an income. So if this is your mindset, that you really want to get rid of discomfort, then you are a good candidate for a job. The recruiter will prefer someone like that above someone who has all the qualifications. Why? Because in every contract, there is someone that wants a leverage. And there's someone accepting the leverage in exchange for a compensation. Let me repeat that. In every contract, there is someone that wants a leverage. And there is someone that submits that leverage in exchange for a compensation. So, always remember this. Any contract you'll get is really someone wanting something from you. And you get something in return. But the primary purpose of the contract is because they want something from you. So if you have a contract that appears too good to be true, it is because it is too good to be true. Remember, this is the world we're living in, where people don't follow Christ, where people are permanently looking after themselves. So why would anyone offer you a contract in which you have all the leverage and they decrease in their own influence? This is why someone would offer you such a contract. Let's say that you are about to purchase a house and the house is worth 2 million euros, but you only have to pay 100,000 euros for it. And then you think, whoa, this is a great deal. I only have to pay 100,000 euros for a house that's worth 2 million euros? This is great. You look at the advantage that you can have this big house for less money. But then someone who just looks at a situation from let's say an outsider will think, hold on a minute, why would someone sell a 2 million euro house for just 100,000 euros? That means they make no profit. That means they're making a loss by selling you that property. So even a small child will look at it and think, this is not correct. Adults often were conditioned by society to look at situations through a social lens would say, it's a great deal. But a pagan would look at it and say, there's some hidden cost in this property. So a pagan who hears this would think, okay, you only have to pay 100,000 euros instead of 2 million? What's wrong with this property? Or what's wrong with the neighborhood that you want to get rid of this house so badly? And later you'll find out that there's a lot of contention in the community and that the local authorities wanted a scapegoat to reduce the violence. So by selling you that property at such a cheap price, they now make you a target, because now people in that community will see you moving into that villa. So they'll think, oh, this is a millionaire. Well, you're not a millionaire. What happens? All attention will be on you, including negative attention. And that's how the people in that community escape facing the violence that's amongst them, because now you are the target of that violence. Or it can be that there is drugs buried on that property, a lot of cocaine. And the criminals who are involved in the cocaine trade, they want to quit, but they don't want to clean up the property, because then what are they going to do with all the drugs? So the people around there that were involved in drug trade, they don't want to be involved anymore. And you know there's a lot of drugs in there under that property, so they sell you the property without telling you about it, and later someone will call the cops saying there's drugs on that property. They'll find it, and you're the one going to jail. And because you go to jail, all the other people who were involved in the drug trade, they're off the hook. They don't have to face jail time. They can spend time with their families. They are bailed out because you're now the one being charged. Every contract is an attempt by the contract maker to get a hold on someone. So, because they need compliance from others to get the hold on something or someone they want, they need to offer something to the people who will comply with them. They can't always tell you exactly what they want. Because if they would tell you exactly what they want, then likely you would say, I don't get along with this. But if you are in a state of necessity, you will accept whatever is around to meet your needs. When your needs are met, and you're not in a state of necessity anymore, you will process things differently. There are many things out there that people tolerate, and they only tolerate them because of necessity. Just think about it. If you live in your parents' house because you don't have your own job or you don't have finances to pay rent somewhere else, you have no option but to put up with restrictions your parents enforce on you. And if you have parents who are out of their mind, who are narcissistic, who are belittling you, who are blaming you, then you have to find a way to cope with what they're doing because of necessity. The moment you have the finances and you already have your own places to stay of your own, would you still tolerate and put up with the BS of your parents? No, you wouldn't. You would just walk out and you'll be in your own place. But if that was the case, your parents wouldn't feel the need to charge you. If your parents are out of their mind. Not all parents are out of their mind. There are parents who are good parents to their children, but you have a lot of parents who are simply out of their mind because they don't want to face anything, they don't want to process anything, they just want people to relieve themselves on. If you have your own place to stay, and they know this, they don't feel the need to charge you. Why? Because you can walk away, and when you walk away, they're left behind with their frustration. But if you have no other option but to put up with their frustration, now they feel empowered to relieve themselves on you. The same with the corporate world. If you have the assets, why would they hire you? Because look at it this way. The moment things get tough, and you have the assets, you have options, you're out of there. But if you don't have any assets, and you have no choice but to be there, out of necessity because you need to pay rent or you need to pay a mortgage, then they have a hold on you. You'll put up with anything, you'll put up with anyone, you'll put up with any difficulty because you have no other options. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Because you need to understand how this world works, because you are in this world until Christ returns. In the world, nobody will go out of their way to make things as comfortable and easy for you at their own expense. Now, there are people out there in the world who will do good to you just for the sake of doing good. They're not doing it to get anything in return. Such incidents happen. They do. But I call them incidents because they are rare. It happens, but it's rare. In general, whenever someone appears to give you a leverage, ask yourself what it is they're avoiding. Just ask yourself, what are they avoiding that they give you such a leverage? In the world, when you're given a leverage, it's because there's something the community or the people want to avoid. So they want to avoid this thing at your expense. But they can't tell you this because then you would walk away and they still have to deal with the thing they're avoiding. So they want to offer you something that appears to be advantage, but advantage is short-lived. And that is what Satan is doing to believers also. Satan will offer you a way out of some bad situation. But that way out is a trap that will lead you into worse. Satan will offer you something that appears to be an answer to your prayer, but is really something to keep you out of the blessing. And that's why it's always important to look at the bigger picture, to look at what's really happening. For example, let's say you are in a neighborhood, or let's say you go on a visit with your friend or someone, you're at visit, and the host receives you. And suddenly, the wife of the host goes to the kitchen, and she begins to quarrel with her husband, who's the host. Why is she doing that? She wants all of you out of there. She wants control. And because she can't control you, she can't control the fact that her husband is one of you, now she's resisting by creating a negative climate just to chase you guys out of there. She can't openly come and say, I want you out of here, because then her husband will tell her, what's wrong with you? I invited these people. These people are good to me. They are my friends. And then she'll face a marriage crisis. She doesn't want that. So what she's doing is, she's blackmailing you by causing this negative climate to make it uncomfortable, even unhealthy for you to be there. Even if that unhealthy climate will be at her own expense, she just wants an escape. And she will even endanger herself by causing a fight just to get that escape. That is a covert way in which people try to get rid of something without having to face themselves for what they want. And why does she want you all away? It is because she's exploiting her husband. And you are there, and because you're an outsider, you may notice things about that place that the husband doesn't notice. You are there at the house on visit, and you may notice that there aren't that many pictures of the husband's relatives around. And then we think, let's say the husband's name is John. You may say to John, how come I only see pictures of your wife's relatives around here? Where are the pictures of your parents, of your brothers and sisters, or where are they? And by you asking this, the husband will be shocked, and then the husband will think, huh? Indeed. And then the husband will notice, indeed, why is it that in this house, it seems as if my wife is the one that controls everything, and I have nothing to say. And when the husband wakes up, the wife's exploitation is over. So that's why she doesn't want all those friends around. Because those friends may notice things she doesn't want them to notice. That's why she will cause a fight with the husband when there's visits, just so that the visitors feel uncomfortable, so they leave. because then her leverage is protected. So, look at the bigger picture also implies looking beyond what's going on. When you learn to look beyond what's going on, you'll see what's actually happening. Now, in this video, I've used the example of a contract. And I've explained to you that no contract maker or contract giver, in this world at least. There may be some exceptions here and there, but the rule is no contract maker is going to offer you an agreement in which you are benefited without anything for them in it. If you notice that there is an agreement that only benefits you, but the one that gives the agreement or who initiates the agreement doesn't seem to get anything out of it immediately, there is something in it for them. They want to avoid something. And the thing they want to avoid, it will haunt you. So, never fall for too good to be true contracts. And apply this to daily life also, not just to employment. Because this video was not intended to be about employment, but I've used employment to explain this on to you. Nobody in this world wants to see you prosper without them having grip on you. A thief or a burglar wants you to be prosperous. Why? So that they can rob you. But apart from burglars, nobody really wants you to be prosperous. Because nobody wants to deal with you having a leverage and they having fewer options. When people praise you for being prosperous, in general, it's because there is somewhere something they can control about that prosperity. Or they always see an escape button in which they can shut you down. Nobody in the world will praise your prosperity if they can't shut it down. Nobody in the world will praise your prosperity if that means you having more options and more abilities and they have less. Nobody in the world will hire you if they can't fire you. Let me repeat that. Nobody in the world will hire you if they can't fire you. If they can't fire you, they won't hire you. So, as a believer, understand that you will have worldly people that are on good terms with you, but remember, they are worldly. They are trapped. They don't look at the bigger picture. And some that do look at the bigger picture, they're just stuck in this black and white thinking. So, if they can't fire you, they won't hire you. So, always examine the situation that you're in, not based on what you want the situation to be, but based on what the situation is. And once you see what the situation is, you're now able to lead the situation to where you want it to be. But before you can lead a situation to where you want it to be, make sure that where you want it to be is in line with Christ. So it's worthwhile and it's desirable and it's practical. And also, before you can lead a situation to where you want it to be, you need to acknowledge where the situation is. And most people, they fail to see the situation for what it is. Because they're so trapped in what they want it to be. And if it's not what they want it to be, they just walk away, or they gaslight the situation, or they just ghost by just disappearing because they don't want to deal with anything. See situations for what they are, because only then will you be able to lead them where you want them to be. That's it for now. Keep agreeing with Christ and be at peace.